In this video, I let the world know why I'm just so gosh darn picky. Well, hello there everybody, I'm Photo Dave, this is Toypixx, and in this video, the things that caught my eye at Hasbro's 1027 event, as well as the MCM in London. Now remember to scan the QR code at the bottom of this video so you can get your free action figure photography guide, as well as be signed up for the Toypixx newsletter. Folks, I just sent out the second issue yesterday and I feel like I'm on a roll. Now later in the video you'll also see QR codes for Amazon and Entertainment Earth. Those are affiliate links, which means I get a cut at no extra cost to you. But here's what I want you to do. If you can find a better deal, do it. We're all collectors, right? So save your money if you have an action figure budget so you can get more figures, or if you don't have an action figure budget, save your money because we all need more caffeine. I'm pretty confident we all need more caffeine. And of course, near the end of the video, you'll get to see today's Toypixx photo, which it is newest figure day, so spoiler, you're gonna see a Chuckles pick, and later you'll see today's Patreon freebie. And now, with all that out of the way, let's get to the things that caught my eye. Okay, first up, we have the guys talking about the Transformers Legacy series, and I've said this before, but I don't really get Hasbro Transformers anymore because I got some around the time of Earthrise and Studio Series 86, and they just felt like the tolerances weren't good. The joints were too loose or too tight. You'd move them and feel like you were going to break them, or you'd just tap them and it felt like they might just fall off. There were all those things. So let that be a lesson to any of you budding business owners out there. You can find somebody that's a big fan of your kind of thing. I'm a huge fan of Transformers, but if you release just a few products that aren't up to snuff, it takes them a while to come back. And that's kind of what I'm looking at with Hasbro's Transformers line. I love that they're going deep, and I think Magmatron looks incredible from Beast Wars Neo. Yes, friends, I knew that because, again, Transformers nerd who just doesn't buy a whole lot of Transformers from the company that invented Transformers, at least a trademark. Anyway, so Magmatron here, I'm really digging him. I love when these guys get to go on and present because you can see that since Hasbro owns Transformers, their imaginations get to run wild a little bit with things like the Junkions a while back and now the Rocky Transformers that they're doing. I just love the way they can use their imaginations to make this stuff work. And it gets me really stoked, and it's constantly pulling me to say, do I dive in a little bit? Do I grab Magmatron? Do I get the Armada Optimus Prime? You know, things like that. So do me a favor and leave a comment below. Words, again, are tricky. I take 2 days off from recording videos. I can't speak. But leave a comment below and let me know, what do you think of the current Transformers Legacy line? Do you think they've really improved the engineering and the tolerances and everything? Are they figures that you're really stoked to have in your collection? Just let me know, because I'd like to dip my toe back in the water a little bit, but I'm a little nervous because everything that I see that I think is sweet is pretty pricey to get a bunch of loose joints. But the next thing that we saw was something that had me totally stoked, and that is this Silverbolt. And I thought this bad boy just looked absolutely incredible. I'm just a big fan of Beast Wars in general. I had the original Fusor Silverbolt way back when, and Shogo Hisui, he knocked it out of the park. I don't know how much of the design work that the guys at Hasbro actually do. If they do, this is no disrespect to them at all. I'm sure that they do quite a bit, to be perfectly honest. But Shogo Hisui was the guy that was kind of in charge of Transformers Masterpiece when I was super stoked about that line. Like, if I could have collected just one line at the time, that would have been the line. And then it went all animation accurate, and suddenly I didn't care, and it was obvious that he wasn't in charge anymore. But now I kind of follow his Transformers and see the ones he did, And this Silverbolt is perfect. I believe he did that Armada Optimus Prime too. But do me a favor, folks, if you know what all Shogo Hisui has worked on in the last few years, comment with that as well, because those might get me to dip my toe back in the water also. So that was it for Transformers, at least for yours truly. If the hook at the beginning of the video made you decide to keep watching, you're gonna get your answer now. That's right, friends. I ain't making you wait till the end of the video. For the rest of you, if you just saw my face and thought, hey, I like that guy, let's watch him. Aw, thank you. Anywho, up here, things that caught my eye, not necessarily good or bad, we have Padme and young Annie. I am not someone who is interested in being a revisionist historian. When the prequels came out, they were pretty reviled by a lot of people in the fan base, and lately people seem to be looking at them with rose-colored glasses. I ain't that person. I still look at them as being pretty bad movies. The way that they're better than the sequels, at least in my opinion, is there is at least a cohesive story that goes through them. So when I think of the sequels, I just get a little... I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Jar Jar, honestly, almost killed Star Wars for me. And until that time, I loved Star Wars. So there was that. But then the Clone Wars came out, and I got to see some of these characters develop better. All that to say, I would potentially buy figures from the prequel era from about the Battle of Geonosis forward, so I'm not interested in Padme or Annie here. But here's where the pickiness comes in, and where you'll kind of get a behind the scenes, an inside glimpse into my psyche. My apologies now. I'm a photographer. That's what I collect for, that's why I collect. Obviously, there's a nostalgic pull, and I dig action figures too. I mean, I could be a landscape photographer, but that's not nearly as much fun to me as taking pictures of these characters represented in plastic crack form. That said, being this guy, I'm insanely lazy about it. I don't want to hide waist cuts when I'm trying to pose a figure and take a picture, because right away a waist cut makes me think, I'm not even going to be able to shoot the whole figure. I'll have to shoot the upper half or the bottom half, or I won't get the exact pose I want because I have to use a leg to hide a waist cut, things like that. So it really comes down to a little bit of laziness. And when it comes to hands, when you've only got like the hands that come on the figures, you kind of sit there, and if it's a gripping hand, you're like, well, did they come with a spear or a stick or something they can hold, or maybe something? And then you're going, what else can I do with a gripping hand? They can only hold things. Or they could do this, maybe, I don't know, like her. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that I'm always thinking of. And when you've got just trigger finger hands, suddenly the poses are basically, this person has to have something in both hands at all time, probably guns. So these are kind of the things that go through my head. Oh, and with articulation. Oh, yeah. I need the butterfly joints and the necks that move all over the place and all the... It all comes down to, I want to set up a figure. I want to plug in hands that I think are going to be perfect. I want to plug in heads that I think are going to be perfect. And I want to put them in a pose that I think is just right. Set them down, shoot them at whatever angle I want without feeling like I need to hide something, or without trying to get crazy creative about a gripping hand, for instance. This is why I love things like extra hands and extra heads in figures. And I'm not so bothered by accessories so much anymore, just because we've all got tons of accessories at this point as far as weapons, and the world building stuff is cool. I still can't wait for Quick Kick to come with that fudgy bar. That'll be, well, a blast. But anyway, that's my pickiness. Now, all that to say, I'm looking at Annie and Padme here. Those joints aren't going to go beyond 90 degrees. There's no diaphragm anything. Chances are, I've handled some Black Series. Those the ball peg waists aren't going to have tons of range. These are the reasons that I don't get that into Black Series or other lines as well. Although, when it comes to Black Series, I do think they're Ugh. Ewoks are killing it. I love their Ewoks. I'm gonna have to load up on those things. And some of their droids are pretty cool too, but their human characters, they're so stiff. And for me, for what I want out of action figures, they don't get it done. Now I know there are a ton of people that are looking at these figures and thinking, I love the Phantom Menace, but you notice that even though they're up and available for pre-order, I don't have QR codes below them because I can't recommend these things for photography because I'm going to assume you're like me and you're kind of a lazy photographer. And now, I guess that's it as far as Star Wars is concerned. Sorry? Okay, we're on to Marvel Legends now, and I'm going to give this one a recommendation with a caveat. It is their newest Scarlet Spider. It does look like the best Scarlet Spider that Marvel Legends has ever put out, and it comes with all the hands. The one thing that kind of bugs me is there's no ball peg waist, but there is a diaphragm cut, it looks like, below the hoodie, so that's pretty good, and the hoodie goes so low on the figure that you don't really notice the fact that there is no ball peg waist, and you don't really notice the fact that there are no sculpted abs there either. It just has that crunch, it's going to move forward, you're going to be able to twist them, and I think that's pretty good. That's not bad articulation, especially when we're talking Marvel Legends here. It does not come with, say, a Ben Reilly head, and more egregiously, it doesn't come with any kind of web firing effects. Now, that's where the caveat comes in. I know that there are a lot of hardcore Marvel Legends collectors that have been collecting for a long time. I had a lot way back when. So I know that many of you already have all kinds of little webbing effects and accessories. So if you have those, yes, I think you should get the Scarlet Spider, especially if you're a Marvel Legends fan, because he looks really good, no doubt. But yeah, if you have those webs, for sure get them. And if you have those webs and a Ben Reilly head, this is kind of a no-brainer. I think this thing will look really good on your shelf, and not only that, I think it'll look pretty good in front of your lens too, which that just kind of throws me off because I don't usually give a big recommendation to Marvel Legends, but where that sounds kind of like a backhanded compliment, I'm about to give another one. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Tombstone. And I think I might be the only person that is really stoked about what I'm seeing with Tombstone here. Does that mean I'm going to pick him up? I don't know. I'm not sure that Tombstone is an important enough character for my collection, but maybe if I see him, I might grab him, because here's what we've got. Looks like a new suited body. We've got the pinless going on. We've got a much broader, it's a suit that looks like it fits the figure a lot better. We've got the head with the ball peg attached at the bottom. That's one little area of concern I have, because how well is that going to work when it comes to articulation? I don't know. As well as I don't know how well the articulation is going to work when it comes to his torso. But for any of you that have ever worn a suit like this does include yours truly, that suit doesn't allow for articulation, so that's a little bit more of a caveat, is the realism here would limit anybody being able to do a whole lot in this thing. So I'm going to cut him a break because I think Tombstone looks good. With an extra head, it's awesome. With extra hands, it's even better. With a crowbar, it's fantastic. This thing almost has as many accessories as a Jada figure. It's basically one stand away from pulling it off. So I do see where Marvel Legends with some of their figures is really working to step it up, and I'm really seeing it with Tombstone. The one thing we'll have to be careful of is what's the articulation going to be like in the neck. I'm not worried about the arms. Like I say, that kind of suit's going to really limit arms. I'm not worried about hips. I'm not even really that worried about torso. You know we're going to be able to twist it somehow, but crunch couldn't happen in that thing. Believe me, I tried. Not pretty. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the thing you all knew was coming, and if you didn't, Surprise! From the G.I. Joe Classified series, we have Clutch with the VAMP. Now, before I heap praise all over this thing, Clutch? Obvious pack-in, the guy doesn't have any extra hands, but if you do get this, and you're shooting him, here's what I think you could do pretty seamlessly. Clutch could have both hands on the steering wheel, which, I don't know if you remember, Clutch is a heck of a driver. He's more than qualified to do that. He could have one hand on the steering wheel while he's firing his pistol outside the door of the VAMP with the other hand. Again, something he's more than qualified to do. He can be outside of the VAMP working on it with a couple tools, or maybe put one of the hands on the lip of the, not the engine, that would be bad, but like the side of a hood, he could do that. Or if he's in the battlefield, you can hide a hand while he's got a pistol, and that's the kind of thing that I'm too lazy to do. But a couple other things you can do with those trigger fingers. He can do this, or he can do this like he's thinking. On the other hand, Clutch was never the contemplative type, I would say. So, we forget that. We brush Clutch aside. And now we focus on the VAMP. Because the VAMP is a thing of beauty. When Lenny and Emily busted that thing out, Lenny was showing off the suspension. Yes, that suspension. I was just sitting there, just at that part I was blown away, and adding all the pieces on it, the way it all fits together, the different colors. I know, it's weird, but when you're talking like a military vehicle that you know should probably mostly be green or tan or whatever, having all the color on it really helped it out. I think one of the reasons I didn't like the Dragonfly as much is because it was more of a super realistic vehicle. You know, there weren't a lot of crazy pops of color. I mean, there were some, no doubt, but it kind of had this helicopter look like anybody could make that specific helicopter. One of the things I really like about the VAMP is clearly a G.I. Joe vehicle, and they really classified it up with this thing. I mean, I am really stoked about this, and the possibilities are insane. You can get a desert version, you can get a Stinger. They can go nuts with this bad boy, and I kind of hope they do. You could even get Clutch in tan, hopefully with extra hands. Relaxed hands, guys. I'd like some relaxed hands with my G.I. Joes. Fists are good too. But anyway, yeah, like the thing that stole the show for me, bar none, as it tends to be, is something from Classified, and this time, it was Clutch with the VAMP. So final thoughts about Hasbro's 1027 event and the MCM in London. I gotta say, I feel like Classified is just, they continue to turn it up. And that's maybe what the power of not having to pay licensing fees really is. I heard Emily at one point say something about we shouldn't compare Classified to things like other lines that are licensed because it's not fair to compare them. I grew up with two rules. These were rules that the family instilled in my sister and I. Rule number 1, you don't get something for nothing. And rule number 2 is nothing's fair. So whenever I hear somebody say it's not fair to such and such, it goes in one ear and out the other. It might not be fair to compare them to these guys, but they're going to get my money and these guys aren't. So there are thoughts like that I think all these teams should start thinking about. Honestly, I would like Hasbro to at some point be able to dump all the licensed properties and be able to just make their stuff as cool as possible. I think that would be best for them, because right now there's an ebb and flow to how well the licensed stuff does when it comes to entertainment. So like, you can have a sweet Marvel movie. Awesome, we're gonna sell a great wave of Marvel Legends. And then 3 in a row suck and suddenly you're kinda in the toilet. Anyway, those are just my business thoughts about things. Overall, when I'm talking about the MCM in London and the 1027 event, I love what Transformers is doing. I love what Classified's doing. I hope Star Wars is able to step it up, because I don't really have any interest in that. I love Star Wars, but I don't have much interest in Black Series. And I see where Marvel Legends is trying to step it up, and I really hope they're able to do that with a lot more figures in the future, because I'm not a nostalgic collector Really, I'm not? But there is something about the line that kind of started the super articulation thing continuing. I'd like to see it, but I can't support it until it really steps it up. Fortunately, I do see where they're trying to make moves to step it up. Now, that's not to say I don't dig some of the HasLabs. Like I said before, I thought Giant Man was cool. Anyway, that's enough of those thoughts. Leave your thoughts about the MCM and the 1027 event in the comment section below. I'll check them out. I'll get way better at responding to that stuff because time has been really bad to me lately. And I need to respond. That's good. It's a good thing to talk to you guys. It makes me happy. But now, we're on to the photo of the day, as far as the stuff I shoot. It's Monday, which means it's newest figure day, and today's shot is Chuckles beating up on some bats because I figured it seemed appropriate. And it's just fun to fire off some action shots every once in a while. A lot of stuff, because of time again, like I'm saying, has had to be just standing there. With Chuckles, I was able to wiggle a little more time out of the day and just have a little more fun with a little more craziness. Makes me happy. But the point of this is so you can scan the QR code, go to the X/Twitter, whatever Elon's calling it today, head over there and comment with your own photos of your own newest figures, because that really is where the fun's at. So do that, and I'll see you on the X/the Twitter. Wow. And now for today's Patreon freebie, and remember folks, if I post it on Patreon, it's yours. You can access it for free. Now there are 4 tiers on there, including a free tier, and then there's 3 other tiers that are all named after Starbucks coffee sizes, because clearly I need more caffeine. Anywho, today's Patreon freebie is this steeple background of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. And why? Because I am so stoked about the Mafex Daredevil that's coming out, and when I think about him, I think about the fact that he's a staunch Catholic, that you can see him on the rooftops of Hell's Kitchen, that you can see him kind of on the tops of churches and stuff like that, and I just thought, this thing would be absolutely perfect for any Daredevil figure, and I know there are several Daredevils out there already, so if you want this thing, head over to Patreon, grab it. I bet you can take some pretty sweet photos with it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I've got for this one. So, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch the video. It's hugely appreciated, and until next time, have fun and happy snapping. See ya.